for me, it's entrepreneurship it can never be about the money, because entrepreneurs are in the worst money position out of anyone in any organization.
Snackable content from brand builders,
e-commerce and growth marketing leaders,
giving you actionable insights you can apply today.
Bite-sized podcast
with Daniel James.
What's up, Aaron? Welcome to Bite Sized.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. Of course. I was just saying before we started recording, when I finally got round to launching my podcast, I wrote a wish list of guests, and you're in the top 5 of those guests. So I'm super thrilled that you're giving me some of your time today. I know you're super busy with everything, so really appreciate you being on. I feel like a lot of people probably do know you, but for anyone who doesn't, who is Aaron? What do you do? Give me a kind of 3-minute career story of where you started and what you're currently doing now.
Yeah, so my name is Aaron Spivak. I was born and raised in Toronto, Canada, and like many Canadians, I played hockey for 20 years, which is a long time. I'm 28, and growing up, I was that typical, lemonade stand, cut your lawn, like window cleaning, always doing something, because my family's an immigrant family. My parents immigrated from Israel in their late 30s, and I just, I didn't want sandwiches for lunch. I wanted to go to the cafeteria and buy things. I wanted to eat good lunches, and I always felt like I didn't want to ask my parents for money, so I had to make it. So I always enjoyed like taking care of people and finding ways to provide better services. And so entrepreneurship was always something that I loved. And then throughout all those fun businesses, and when I was 18, I launched a company with my brothers and my mom out of the basement of my house called Revitasize, which is essentially like, in today's world, like your local juice shop. But in 2012 and 2013, the healthiest thing to get was, in Toronto, we have Subway or a Sub, and now we know all that stuff's unhealthy. But so really providing like a healthy solution, and we bootstrapped that out of our living room to 11 locations, and it still exists today. And then when I was 23, I discovered the internet, and more than just Facebook, but the ability to actually sell online. Because where I'm from, in order for us to scale our business, we have to take all the money we made in that year and then park it into another location in order to enter into that new area, and then pray that that is a profitable location, and then do that again and again and again. So you never really make any money, and it's very capital intensive to scale. Then I discovered the internet, and it's like, wow, I can be everywhere, and I can facilitate to everybody from one store. So I love that idea. And we did that for Revitasize. And then I saw, my partner and I, in 2018, we launched Hush, which quickly became the world's most popular and highest selling weighted blanket. And we built that on the idea that, I'm a big believer of innovation through iteration. I never want to be the first. Weighted blankets have been around for a long time, but we took, the demand, and we met it with a version that took care of all your typical weighted blanket problems. They never impossible to wash. They don't cover your feet. They're way too hot. The weight distribution is not great. It sounds like a rain stick when you're sleeping and you move throughout the night. And we were able to quickly scale Hush from 0 to 48 million a year in our first 48 months. We had a top 10 Canadian Kickstarter of all time. We were one Forbes. And then last year, we were able to sell the business to the largest sleep company in the country. If you're in America, you might know like the equivalent would be Mattress Firm. In Canada, Sleep Country. And yeah, that's the 3-minute journey so far.
Congrats, man. Wow. I didn't realize that the rise of Hush was so quick and to that level. That's incredibly impressive, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So weighted blankets, what was the inspiration? Why weighted blankets?
So my co-founder actually was volunteering at a camp that supported children with various different needs. And they used to have this stimulation room where like kids would go in, they want to relax, maybe they're having a panic attack, maybe they just want to take a nap. And they have all these different sensory devices. And he found this like weighted like lap pad that he loved, but it was so small. And he's like, dude, like these weighted pads are amazing. Then we went online and we saw like there was 300,000 people searching for weighted blankets. And what was meeting that demand was just a horrible product. And typically like just drop shippers or whatever were just meeting that demand. But it wasn't one of those typical like, oh, I want this unique microphone or this light and I'll just buy any of them. the people who were searching for weighted blankets actually had real issues. I mean, they were suffering from insomnia, from stress, from anxiety. These are real things that cripple us. Like we all know that the feeling in our chest when we're anxious, and it's debilitating. You can't sleep, and if you don't sleep, it just now. I mean, since then, there's been so much studies on sleep, and there's been so many outspoken people about it, but it's terrible when you can't sleep. So we weren't interested in drop shipping or creating just a run-of-the-mill product to meet demand. We really wanted to create a product that not only worked, but had people using it for years and years and years. And that was our edge when building a brand. People came to us not only for the solution, but they trusted us to deliver on it. And it's how we've been able to expand into like pillows and sheets and mattresses. And it's like, those are all very commoditized, very competitive spaces. And why do people buy from us is because they know from the early days that we're not just going to launch a run-of-the-mill product. We're going to take our time. We're going to develop it, and it's going to do whatever we say it's going to do.
Yeah, makes sense. You mentioned you sold the company. What was that process like? What was the motivation for doing it? And how much, having just gone through that myself with the agency, how much has that changed your kind of day-to-day?
Yeah, I mean, the process of selling, I mean, it's the first business that I've sold, at least at that scale. And you learn as you go, and it's probably, and if not still to this day, the most intensive emotional roller coaster that I've ever been on. Like some days you wake up, you're like, this is amazing. And the next day you wake up, you're like, this is never going to happen. Like, what's going on? And like, sometimes like those polar opposite emotions are happening like by the hour and by the conversation. And typically a deal, maybe a couple of years ago, but in today's world, it doesn't happen overnight. It was a year-long process, and with all that emotion, and you can't talk to anyone, you can't say anything because there's so much legality involved. You still need to run your business and grow it because that needs to be a part of the narrative. So arguably the most difficult year mentally I've ever been through in my entire life. So the process was very, very, very difficult. And of course, I mean, the outcome is what we wanted, and it's easy to say it was worth it, but now knowing what a founder has to go through when selling their business, I feel like a lot of us in the founder community or in the business and entrepreneur community, we talk about buying and selling businesses like it's like trading cards, but it's a lot more intricate. And as the deal sizes get bigger, it becomes even more complicated. But in today's world, like, we've been very fortunate. We've been agnostic from our acquirers, so we've been able to really operate as like our individual entity. We have our own office, we have our own team, we have our own payroll. Everything is individualized to us. But in the back end, we actually get to pull on this billion-dollar organization for the things that we might not have. We don't have a 25-person HR team. We don't have, an in-house CFO right now. So we're able to kind of like, hey, can you help? Hey, can you step in here? So it's been a really good, we've been very fortunate to have a strategic partnership. I know for a lot of other people, it sometimes goes the other way.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a really good point. Again, having gone through that journey myself as well, like you said, the emotional roller coaster, even though the outcome is one that you want, like the ups and downs through the process. And I think like the biggest thing is, like you said, it's the emotional aspect. And then you still have to run the day-to-day business. And that's really challenging to balance the two, especially if a process goes on for 6 months or a year, right? Like you take your eye off the ball, that has an impact on the deal if things are taking that long. So yeah, I definitely feel you on that one.
Definitely.
So going back to the brand then, a lot of people that listen to this are either brand owners or people looking to start a brand or in the marketing world. So one of the questions I like to ask and get people's perspective on is what are the common misconceptions do you think that people have about starting and building a brand?
There's probably a handful. I mean, one thing I was just talking with a friend of mine about, and one thing I feel like is not, we saw it during COVID, right? When COVID hit, everyone became an entrepreneur, and entrepreneurship was cool. I mean, I dropped out of school. When I dropped out of school, it was the option is live in a basement for the rest of your life or be a drug dealer. There was no like alternative to, it's going to work out. And now when people drop out of school and pursue entrepreneurship, everyone's like, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And everyone's like, oh, that's amazing. Like, let me know. I want to be a part of it. It's like, there's a happy middle there. And I think for a long time, entrepreneurs were at the bottom, and then COVID hit and it went and it peaked. And we saw it with like everyone launching Shopify stores and candle businesses and all these like random things. And, you know, what I think is the biggest misconception is that you're going to be rich. And that, right, like for me, it's entrepreneurship it can never be about the money, because entrepreneurs are in the worst money position out of anyone in any organization, right? You're the last to get paid. You take on all the risk, you take on all the liabilities, and everything you touch and sign is in your name. Your face is out there, your livelihood is out there, and if you're, depending on where you're at in your life, your family is out there. Everyone is on the line. Anyone that's coming nowhere near you is fully head on the chopping block when you're an entrepreneur. And a lot of us like to glorify, you know, the big successful, the sales, the 1 in 100. But for me, you know, and you for sure have had this, and a lot of people have, you know, when you speak to someone who's an entrepreneur, after like 5 minutes, you're like, that person's going to crush it. And you just leave. You're like, it's just a lot. You don't know anything about the business. You didn't look at the P&L. You know nothing. But there's certain people that have the it. And usually the it is they just love, it's a love affair. And it's you can't get away from it. You can't even go on vacation. You can't turn off. And that's what entrepreneurship needs to be. When it comes about money, I always tell people there's way easier ways and way less risky ways to get money. And entrepreneurship cannot be about that.
So true. It got glorified, right? And so much on social media is financial freedom and work from your laptop in Bali, and everything is just yachts and watches. And, you know, if only that were true.
Although I'd probably be it happens for some, but
yeah,
that can't be it, right? Like, you know,
yeah.
I remember that, like, people ask what happened after the sale, and it's like, I don't know, we went back to work. Nothing really changed.
Yeah, exactly. But to your point, that's the drive that got you to the point of the sale, and will get you to the future points that you're trying to achieve in your life as well. So I think you're right. It takes a certain type of person and personality to build things from the ground up. And kind of dovetailing from that, so you mentioned Hush was bootstrapped, right, from the beginning? So what's your take, again, for people, bootstrap versus venture? And I know it's a big topic because depending on the type of business, you know, some require venture, right? If you're building like a tech product. You took the bootstrapping route. Why? Have you ever raised money? Would you look to do so? What would your advice be for people thinking about whether they might need to look to raise venture?
Yeah, I mean, we were very fortunate and we bootstrapped it and we're profitable from day one. But, you know, as I often say, I didn't know another option. For me, the way I'm wired, the way I'm built is I don't think I can operate a losing business. I don't know if I could develop stories that might not work out. And so I never really understood the idea of the raising money. And then when I shifted to the other side of the table and now I invest in a lot of brands, I'm starting to understand the business of raising money. And it's a business of simply investing, getting in at a certain valuation and hoping to get out at the next. And not necessarily, oh, I love this product, brand, founding team. I love what it does for society. I love what it does for its users. It's really not about that. So it's really, you know, that side of the world, I've never been on the side where I raise money. But I also know that the amount of stress that it adds, the amount of work that's not in the direct helping the business that's required, and how tough it could be if you get a bad partner. Like I always tell people, like I've had co-founders in all my businesses. I don't think I can ever be a solo founder. I just don't think I have that bone in my body. I hate winning alone. I've played hockey my whole life. I don't like the idea of like, you know, achieving something and having no one to share it with. And even if I can share it with someone, like they don't understand that work. It's all about the journey, the work, the pain to get like without sharing that journey with someone. And I've always say it's so important who you choose to be that partner who decides. It's kind of like a marriage. It's like you just can't, just because someone's got money doesn't mean you should marry them. And I feel like when we're talking about who's going to invest in our business, the amount of decks I get that I can just respond back with a check and they wouldn't care who I am. Like I can be a convicted felon. They don't even care. They just want the money. And I find that very dangerous. I feel like, you know, VC raising money can be very, very dangerous depending on the position you're in, what you're building, and if you have the time. It's really a time-consuming thing. So I'm I'm very scared of VC funding. I think if I ever do build another business, the initial approach will always be, can I do this on my own?
I think I heard it actually on Shark Tank or something. Maybe it was Mark Cuban. It's like raising money isn't a celebration; it's an obligation. And I think it's a skill, right? To go and raise lots of money, like it is a skill. But at the same time, I think it's not your path to solving all your problems within your business. It becomes a huge obligation. And to your point, if it's not with the right partners, is it a benefit or is it a burden at that point?
And I always ask people if they've ever had someone give up, any partner in life, whether it be business or personal life, give up on the business or the relationship. And that feeling is terrible. It's a terrible, terrible feeling because you either then have to fill in a void or give up the business or the relationship. And if your business doesn't perform the way you say you are, the way VCs and people invest and raise is they spread their money and they just kill off the injured horses. And that's the last thing you want is to be stuck with your love, which is your passion, your joy, your idea, and have partners that don't care. It's a dangerous thing that I see happen.
100%. Going back to the growth of the brand. So you scaled really, really quickly, right? And obviously you found this product that was in demand and you made it better and elevated. What were the keys to the success? Was it purely just you found a great product with organic demand? Or what was the marketing approach that you used in the early days that worked? And how has your marketing evolved as you've grown and got bigger?
I think one thing that people always forget is how simple and basic a conversion cycle is. Like, how do you sell someone anything? And for us, it was super black and white. It was like, okay, there's a bucket of people that want what we're selling, whether they buy it from us or they buy it from somebody else, they're buying it. So that was always easy because we love innovation through iteration. We don't want to create the demand necessarily on day one, but we want to service it. So we see the demand. Next question is, okay, where are they hanging out? I want to sell skateboards. I'm going to go to the skate park or I'm going to go to the hockey rink, right? So I'm going to go to the skate park. So for us, it was like, we clearly saw they're on Google, they're searching, they're all hanging out in this one spot. And then we said, okay, what does it cost us to be at the skate park? And we figured out our cost. And the biggest thing, and most people, those first two steps, I think 9 out of 10 people who enter the business can answer those within a half a second for their business. The most difficult part, where things fall apart, and they fell apart for some of our competitors, which allowed us to move in, was they don't know their financials. And the amount of founders that I speak to on a regular basis that know their financials 98% and are missing 1% to 2% is who we exposed in the beginning. So we knew roughly what everyone's margins were. Because you know your space, you know what it costs to make your product. Sure, someone might get a little bit of a better price, give or take. So we knew roughly what their margins were. We knew what they were selling at. So we knew roughly what it cost for them to be at the skate park, because we knew what it cost. So we reverse engineered what our profit needed to be in order to scale and own it. And how low can we go to scale? And some of the best brands in the world, the true classics, the sheer techs, the best brands in the world were able to scale on the smallest, finest margin in the beginning until eventually you get brand dominance, and then you can pull back and widen that gap. Problem is people are very unaware of that gap. I have so many people like, what is it? You sell something for $5, for 20, it costs you 5. So you assume you have 15 in margin. Okay. And my marketing is 10. Okay. So I got $5 profit, but like you're forgetting overhead and storage and palleting and processing fees and return ratios. And like, there's so many times that people forget the sauce. And at the end of the day, you have no money. So we grew the business to zero to, our first year we did 900K. Our second year we did $10 million. In our second year, it was just me, my co-founder, and one other girl. And we did every single thing on us, and we took no money from the business. And I would literally DJ on the weekends. We were on Dragon's Den at this point. We had a $1.5 million Kickstarter in 30 days. I would DJ on the weekends to pay for my life because I wanted us to grow. And we went from 10, then we went to 22 million. I was like, well, how'd you do it? It's like we put it all back in, and I took advantage of reducing my overhead to the point where I can be slightly profitable. Then we owned the market. We became the number one selling weighted blanket in the world. And then eventually we were able to increase our price because our brand supported it. And then at that point, our margin was much juicier and we were able to kind of squash the crowd. So it was very strategic, but it was knowing where people are, making sure my product supported what I said it was going to do, and then knowing my numbers to the point where I can kind of wiggle my way up the mountain. And eventually I knew other people had rent, they had girlfriends, they had wives, they had kids. I was a 23-year-old kid who I would DJ on weekends. I was like, dude, I just saw you on TV pitching a product. Like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I don't care. So that was our huge lever that enabled us to just pull away from the crowd in early days. We were savages.
I love that response for many reasons. And it's like, it's so true. And obviously from an agency standpoint, we work with lots of brands, and, you know, I feel like so many want that holy grail of max efficiency, max scale from the get-go. And probably as well, a lot of agencies are telling them they can do it for them, which makes it even harder, right? When you get a bit of more of a realistic team who understands these things, and to your point, like, you know, how to scale things to that degree, it's a difficult pill to swallow, right? I would argue it's very difficult for any brand, regardless of products and marketing, to have max efficiencies, max scale from the get-go and just be able to do that forever. So I love that approach, and it obviously worked.
It did.
A bit more tactical, marketing, Aaron, if you don't mind. What channels are you spending on? Are you running paid? What does that look like? What's working? What's not working?
Yeah, so we grew our business on paid, and we still grow our business with paid media. We're spending on Facebook or Meta. We're spending on Google, spending on TikTok. We do a lot of out-of-home things. So we've sponsored buses, bus stops, and billboards, radio, TV. We have an influencer portion of the business that does relatively well. So we really are everywhere, but it's always important to never forget, there's always one channel, or one or two channels you don't want to turn off. Everything else is in growth mode. And those are always, in my opinion, going to be Meta and Google, at least in our space.
Yeah, for sure. And from a overall kind of omni-channel perspective, so you got your online store, Amazon, I'm assuming, retail. At what point was it always omni-channel from a sales perspective, or did you start purely online? What was the evolution there, and what kind of gave you the, not confidence, but what was the right point at which to expand from just maybe a single point of sale?
I think every brand knows when. And it all depends on the resources at hand. And one thing you don't want to do is make a mistake and take something from one resource that's working and then risk it on something that's not working. And also, like, a lot of things come back to, like, how do you build brand in a way that works? And oftentimes you can't be this luxurious brand and then also offer everything on Amazon for less because you need to compete and rank, and vice versa. You can't be at a discount retailer. So there's a lot of things to consider. But there's one thing that I know pays the most dividends, and it has. And we're in 2,800 doors across Canada and the US. And those stores order over and over and over again. But in the first 2 years, we would sell them because they wanted the brand, and then nobody would buy. And then they would either want to sell it back to us. It was a headache, and they'd never buy again. And it was like, and then they would discount it. It would hurt the brand. It's like, what are we doing? Why? And we always forgot in the beginning that nothing should ever impact the brand. There's nothing more important than what people think of you when you're not there. And that applies to you, that applies to your brand, that applies to everything. So what we did is we scaled it back. And we went really heavy in providing the absolute best customer experience of all time, to investing into our products, to building community. So when we launch products, we call our customers, we talk to them, we get our feedback, we involve everyone possible in the process of what we're doing. And then over the next 2 years, we were able to only work with specific retailers that we knew we had demand in that area, and we would even drive traffic to them. So the idea is you'll know when it's right for you, and don't just sometimes we just push to take the money, and the short-term money, if you're building a brand, can sometimes be the thing that hurts you the most.
Yeah, it's great advice. What's your current biggest challenge?
Always going to be people. I spend 60 to 75% of my day meeting people, talking to people, getting to know people like yourself, constantly meeting and figuring out who's the next big person that we can bring on our team that we can work with. And we've been super fortunate to build such a strong team at Hush. Has probably been 99.9% of the reason we've had the success we've had. But I spent a lot of my time working with the people on our team, and then a lot of time bringing on new people. And the biggest challenge, especially now, because we want people in office, is getting good people, getting them locally, being able to create an environment that gives them a chance at reaching their goals. And everyone has different goals and different timelines. So the biggest challenge is always going to be people. And for us, it's also the biggest opportunity.
Yeah, it's one thing I've noticed about you. You're a big in-office. I know is it taboo anymore? I don't know if it is. You're a big in-office kind of fan. I mean, I agree, whilst at the same time, we're kind of hybrid. So why is it so important to you?
I think I've been pretty loud about being in an office. I just think that any founder, and this is not a knock on anyone, but any founder that wants to be 100% remote. And by the way, I know some huge companies that do this. Athletic Greens does it, Airbnb does it. There's big companies that do it, and they do it successfully. But if you're growing, and I still very much think we're growing, if you're growing and you're building and you're a founder and you don't want to be in person at all, then it's probably because you as a founder just want to be remote. Like your work style is remote, so you make everyone else work remote. But if you had one bet in your entire, one bet, life on the line, and there's two teams, there's one team that's 2-3 days in the office a week, both teams, same caliber, same people, same product, everything, all the variables are the same. The only two variables are one team is 100% remote, one team is 2 to 3 days in the office together. Every single person I asked says the same answer. Who would you bet on?
In office, every day of the week.
Exactly. So can remote work? 100%. It works. It does work. I have no doubt in my mind. But if you're serious about your business and serious about your goals, and you're still pushing for only remote, typically when I meet those founders, it's simply because they just want to work out of Costa Rica, and that's just their lifestyle, and that's what they want to do. And I respect that, but I just don't respect it when it's like pushing it from a point of it's better. It's like, no, pushing it from the point of your life is better, and I'm totally cool with that. But for us, it's like, the business is the baby, and it's the most important thing right now in our lives. And I want to put in the best position to be successful. And I know that position involves being in person a certain amount of time a week.
I totally agree. And I think obviously COVID was the reason why so many businesses went remote, right? And it's like we were kind of forced into it. I worry about the younger generation coming up and what they're going to miss out on. Because if I look back at my career, it was in office. And do I remember, what do I remember? I remember the relationships I forged, which were really made possible by being in person. I mean, it used to be day in, day out, right? But it sounds simple.
Maybe it was too much, but
it definitely was too much.
Yeah.
When I was doing the rat race commute in London, where it was like sprinting to the train station because I had to get to work for 9 a.m. else I'd be in trouble. Definitely, I'm glad there's a shift towards more flexibility, 100%. But I think, you miss out on certain things. And how did I think about personal development? How did you get more confident about speaking in public, right? Doing it in person in an office, having to present things in front of your teams, having to stand up, do these things in front of people. If you're not developing those skills because you're fully remote, it's very different behind the camera than when you're in person. And then I just feel like you miss out on moments of forging stronger relationships with people, that it's very difficult to replicate in a fully remote setting.
Yeah. I mean, it's at the end of the day, when you get to know someone, the relationship is different. And that's what we're betting on. I'm not betting on, am I more distracted when I'm at the office? 1,000%. There's no doubt in my mind, my work is actually much worse. In fact, I also probably think that other people here, their work is also much worse than when it's at home. I have no doubt. That's not why we're here. We're here because it's important when it's so-and-so's birthday and we all remember to go get a little gift or a cupcake or whatever and sing happy birthday together. That's important. It's important when so-and-so is having a bad day and someone can pick up on that body language and understand that something's happening in their life and we can talk about it. Otherwise, people are committing 2/3 of their waking hours to being on this mission that I sold them on or your leader sold them on, and work just becomes task in, task out, KPI hit, KPI miss, feedback review, quarterly goals, Zoom call, team. it becomes black and white, and it's not. It's relationship, because the odds that you work at what you're working at right now for the rest of your life is very low. But, you know, how old are you?
37.
So 37. So odds are in the next 20 years, everyone you meet now will probably be in a much more serious position in whatever the hell they're doing in 20 years. If I had to bet, right? Well, everyone you know now will be in their 50s and their 60s, and they'll be doing something right. The person you worked with for 5 years on Zoom that you've never met and don't know is probably less likely to feel connected to you than the person you spent 5 years with doing dinners and talking and going through the breakups and all this stuff. And that person now becomes exponentially more mutually valuable, both of you, for the rest of your lives, probably going to their wedding. And that's what people forget. It's that this is a people game. We're all talking, we're getting to know each other. You know how many people got invited to people they've never met on Zoom's wedding? Never. Last thing, I don't want to meet you at my wedding. That's weird. But if we've been working together in the office for the same amount of time, you'd probably come to my wedding. So like, that's the difference. And it's a people game, and people forget that. It's all about connection, relationship, and long-term building.
So true. Perfectly put. Perfectly put. So Aaron, what's next for Hush? Where do you go from here?
Our catalog is still way too small. So we've finally built out our R&D team. I was the R&D team for the longest time, and I still got to lead it, but at least we have a strong ops team to support us and get stuff done much faster. And I want to leave this brand well over $100 million before I leave, and be able to have a team that's crushing it and humming on all cylinders. And, you know, I'm a marketer and kind of like a storyteller by trade. So I've always been good at building that side, but it's really building all foundations of the business, which is what's coming, what's happening now. And then once we have our full suite of products, I think we're probably like 6 or 7 products away from really being the only place you need to go to for all your betting. And that's a place I'd like to see the brand in a few years, or even this time next year.
Amazing. Do you have a sense as what's next after Hush?
I know a lot of people ask me that. I love business. I love working with businesses. I love starting businesses. I love new ideas. I'm a big energy guy. So if I get excited about something, I usually like to scratch the itch. But, you know, what I've realized about myself is, like, not only do I love people, but I love cool people that are good and that mean well and that are consistent. And a lot of people can do things for short periods of time, but consistent people. So just do as much of that as I can. Like, you know, people that fill me up with energy that are onto something, and I can support them, or I can start it, or vice versa. But I have so much fun at the game of business that I'm sure something will be exciting, but it's definitely going to be with good people doing fun stuff.
But yeah, that's the goal, right? Cool shit with cool people. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. And if you find those people, you will make something work, right? You will make something.
Always.
Threads. We've got to talk about Threads.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I think you're the first person I saw on there, actually, when I joined.
I just remember, like, a handful of months ago when I went all in on Meta, and everyone that knew what I was just, you know, saying all these negative things, and it's over, and iOS and the ads, and boomers use it, and no one likes Facebook, and the metaverse is a sham, and Zuck is washed. And I just, you know, Zuckerberg to me is Steve Jobs of social media. And if Steve Jobs was alive today and Lawrence and was just doing anything, we would all put everything we had and more behind him, even if he sounded nuts, because he is, I mean, Apple is almost a decade after he's been gone, more than a decade after he's been gone, and it's the most valued company in the world. So, and Zuck is here, and he's active, and he's in the business, and we're fading him. Doesn't make any sense. So the grandfather of social media, I mean, sure, MySpace, this and that, but he's always been the best iterator in the world. He's always taken something and made it better. Snapchat to Instagram to the stories, like, he's a known iterator. And I think the Threads execution has been incredible. And I think he's got the right team to make it last. I mean, the hype is going to obviously drop down a bit, but I think if there's any horse that I'm any jockey that I'm betting on, it's Mark Zuckerberg, and I just don't. I think he's too young, too smart, and too competitive to be giving up and just let Facebook die. So what, he missed on the Oculus or whatever, like, and did he really miss? Who knows? Like, it might even not miss. So we'll see.
I'm with you on that one. Never bet against Zuck. That's for sure. I like it as well. You can't. I think people just want, you know how it is. People want to say something contrarian or, oh, it's this or that. And, people gravitate towards the I guess the entrepreneurs they like the most. But I mean, what a seamless execution. And as if he cares that it's a copy of Twitter. Like, he's got access to a couple of billion people that he can just seamlessly say, hey, get on this new app, and it's so integrated and so seamless. I got
like
high
70 million downloads.
Insane.
It's the smartest. I would have paid money to see the traffic of Twitter and TikTok when that thing launched, because their traffic probably fell off a cliff.
No, I can imagine. If it hadn't, Elon would have tweeted about it. Put it that way. He would have been saying, "Oh no,
yeah." If it hadn't, he would have been like, "Yeah." I want to suing him or something. So
I know. Suing him and then fighting him in a cage as well, apparently. Which I hope they open that one up to betting. That would be an interesting. Well, dude, thank you so much for being on. Like I said, absolutely thrilled. Super impressive what you built. In my opinion, doing it the right way as well. Just your approach and philosophy to building teams, building companies. I learned stuff listening to you talk. So really appreciate your time. Congratulations on what you've built, and I can't wait to see you get Hush past that 100 million mark and whatever you do next after that. Not to talk too far into the future, because I'm sure you're thinking, fuck, Daniel, I've got tons of shit to do. But you're the sort of person who will make it successful. So thank you for being on, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.